Welcome to Concrete Block, the podcast where we dive into the latest news and current events. I'm your host, Walter. Today, we're going to explore a significant development in the world of trade and economics. The Supreme Court has made a ruling that could have far-reaching implications for international trade agreements and the use of tariffs as a tool for negotiation. The court's decision has deemed certain tariffs imposed by the Trump administration as illegal, specifically those invoked under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA. This act has been used by the president to impose tariffs on various countries over non-trade issues, leaving many nations bruised and uncertain about their trade relationships with the U.S. Experts say this ruling could curtail the president's ability to use tariffs as a form of leverage or punishment outside the trade domain. However, it's still unclear how this will play out in practice, as the administration has other tools at its disposal to impose tariffs. The impact on existing trade agreements and framework deals reached with nearly 20 countries in recent months is also uncertain. Some analysts believe that countries may have more bargaining power in new or ongoing negotiations with the U.S., while others think that the existing deals will remain in place, despite the higher tariff rates. The reaction from overseas has been measured, with countries like South Korea reviewing the ruling and planning to continue talks over implementation of their tariff agreement. As we delve deeper into this story, it's essential to consider the potential consequences for global trade and the economy. Will this ruling lead to more stability and predictability in international trade, or will it create new challenges and uncertainties? We'll be exploring these questions and more as we continue to follow this developing story. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're diving into a fascinating story that's been making waves internationally. It appears that U.S. President Donald Trump has announced plans to send a hospital ship to Greenland, claiming that many people on the island are sick and not receiving proper care. However, this move has been met with skepticism by Danish officials, who argue that Greenland's healthcare system is more than capable of meeting the needs of its population. To break it down, Denmark's Defense Minister Troels Lund Poulsen stated that the Greenlandic population receives the healthcare it needs, either in Greenland or in Denmark, if specialized treatment is required. In fact, access to healthcare is free in both Greenland and Denmark, with 5 regional hospitals across the Arctic island. The local government in Greenland even signed an agreement with Copenhagen earlier this month to improve treatment for Greenlandic patients in Danish hospitals. It's worth noting that Trump has been vocal about his desire for the U.S. to control Greenland, citing security concerns. However, he has since backed off from earlier threats to seize the island after striking a deal with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte to ensure greater U.S. influence. The Danish government has maintained that Greenland is an autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark, and that its sovereignty should be respected. In a related development, Denmark's Arctic Command recently evacuated a crew member of a U.S. submarine off the coast of Nuuk after the sailor requested urgent medical attention. This incident highlights the complex diplomatic dynamics at play in the region. As we consider this story, it's essential to approach it with a nuanced perspective, recognizing the complexities of international relations and the need for cooperation between nations. We'll continue to monitor developments on this front and provide updates as more information becomes available. Welcome back to Concrete Block. As we wrap up today's show, let's take a look at the ongoing conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The situation remains dire, with both sides suffering heavy losses. Recently, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that his country is definitely not losing the war, despite Moscow occupying close to a fifth of Ukrainian territory. In a recent interview, Zelensky claimed that Ukrainian forces have reclaimed around 300 square kilometers of territory in recent counterattacks. However, these gains have not been independently verified. The United States has been pushing for both sides to end the war, brokering several rounds of talks in recent weeks, but so far, there's been no clear breakthrough. Meanwhile, Kyiv has faced massive Russian strikes on energy facilities, leaving thousands without power across the country. Zelensky has called for air defenses to be strengthened, and the international community continues to grapple with how to bring a peaceful resolution to the conflict. It's essential to acknowledge that this is a complex issue with multiple perspectives and nuances. As we strive to provide accurate and unbiased information, it's crucial to recognize the human cost of this war and the impact it has on civilians caught in the middle. As we conclude today's segment, we urge our listeners to stay informed about the developments in Ukraine and to support efforts towards a peaceful resolution. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, stay informed.